call our Monday, August the 20th, 2018 meeting to order, please. Before we start, I'd like to thank all the guests for coming tonight, especially those that come from out of town. We wish you a good visit here and a safe visit back home. At this time, if we stand, we'd like Reverend Hayes to give our invocation and our own already Quavo to our full-age church. If she would to do the pledge for us.
Let's bow our head. Father, with the greatest of honor, we come into your presence. Father, we recognize you to the best of our ability, who you are and what you are to Bladen County. And Father, we ask you to lead us and guide us in Bladen County with thy Holy Spirit, that the decisions made by our commissioners, Lord, may they not always agree with one another, but they would always agree for the very best of Bladen County. Father, I ask this, that you would look after our farmers in Bladen County. They seem to be attacked. Father, we're a rural county and you know all about it. But we ask a special blessing on our farmers, all our employees and our citizens, and even our county employees. Lord, bless our commissioners as they travel from day to day, not only on tonight's meeting, after they travel throughout the month. Concerns and different things that come to their attention, that you would be with them, guide them and give them the words that they need. Glad to see our attorney here tonight, Lord. We thank you for what you've done for him and what you're going to continue to do for him. Watch over him, keep him close to you, Lord, as you do our commissioners and all our employees in our county, Lord. Lord, bless this county with the very best you got. That's what I'm asking you simply. I ask this in Christ Jesus' name and all of God's people. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we approve our consent items, I'd like a motion to remove and table items 2I, 2J, 2K, and 2L. We got a motion by Mr. Bullock, we got a second by Mr. Gooden. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you so much. And now can I get I trust everybody has a chance to go to the agenda. We got a motion by Mr. Gooden, we got a second by Dr. Mongowens. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thanks so much. Matter of interest to commissioners and clerk.
One that I'm going to bring to everyone's attention, I'm going to be the voting delegate, and I have spoken with Frank Reeves, the county commissioner from Brunswick County, and he has asked for support of Bladen County, he's second vice for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. And if that's okay with you guys, I would cast that vote for him, for Frank Reeves from Brunswick County.
I'll motion that we support him through the commission here.
We got a recommendation by Mr. Cogdell, we got a second by Mr. Bullock.
Motion.
Motion by you and a second by, okay? And, any questions, anyone? I'd like to say I've met him on numerous occasions, and he's very active, and his resume will take you a day to read. This guy's real active, and I think he'll be a good representative for us, especially coming from our district. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you all so much.
I got one, Mr. Chris.
Yes, sir.
My concern is about the Blaine County personnel policy. I think it needs to be reviewed, I think it needs to be updated, and I think it needs to have commissioners on it, and I think it needs to have department heads on it, and maybe some employees through a committee. But I think that There needs to be a timeline around disciplinary enforcement. I think that department heads need to be trained annually around this policy. And I think that department heads need to have the authority to deal with their disciplinary problems, at least the probationary part of it. And then at the probationary part of it, then it will go to Greg and HR and personnel committee and to the legal. But that's just some thoughts I had around it, and I would hope that the chairman will put this on the agenda or direct Mr. Martin to follow up with that, and whatever people are appropriate to be there on this committee will be able to attend. I just think it's something that needs to be done.
I feel the same way, Mr. Martin. Be glad the recommendation would be to do so.
Ms. B, we gonna be reviewing all changes to the policy this
My request was personnel policy.
For the entire
the
policy.
entire policy.
Can I ask to add to that on hiring? Because I'm not sure if maybe I don't understand the process and how they hiring. Now, I know that we have a lot of vacancies in this county. We have a lot of people come in and out. I understand that. I don't have a problem. But how about hiring? Maybe look at how they hire as well.
Well, that would fall under.
Same thing. Yeah, he said discipline.
No.
I did not.
We'll do all.
I said the personnel policy.
Total, okay.
Mr. Cogdell's talking about discipline.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Cogdell mentioned discipline.
Okay. Oh, that should be at all then.
But it point out the whole person.
Okay.
We'll be glad, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Anybody else? Individuals wishing to approach the commissioners, Madam Clerk? This time, before we go any further, I talked to, Bradley Kenlaw, and Bradley, if you would, we're gonna squeeze you in right here so you can, make your presentation.
Thank you. I'll be real quick. I just come to you bring good news that after a bunch of calls and emails and visits to make this happen, we finally were able to open a recovery application center today at our office complex at White Lake. So some of the hurricane recovery programs are gone and passed, and those people will soon be seeing money, I hope. But this one last program that we're aware of, CDBG DR program, they are here, they're ready to take applications. I understood today 10 of our citizens have already gone elsewhere to other application centers, but they'll bring all their files back here. So anybody that has any hurricane damage, they can call 211 to make an appointment to come here, or they told me today if they showed up, they would try to assist them if they weren't busy. If not, they would help schedule them a time to come back. And this process may take several visits, so it's great news that these folks don't have to make several trips out of county now to make this application. So
Good news, Brad.
they're open 6 days a week, and we did a press release today. Later on, we visited with us tomorrow. And I'm sure they'll have those hours posted on their sites, or when they're open. So we're excited about it. Please share the word that anybody that wishes to file application for some recovery assistance.
How long is that period gonna be open?
We don't. A minimum, they'll be here a minimum of 3 months, potentially 6 months. I haven't seen it by end date on it yet.
Mr. Could you ask them, would they please try to accommodate some hours that's a little late over the afternoon for working folks?
I think they told me today 6 or 7 p.m. 2 or 3 days a week, and then they're there on Saturday for several hours, like 8 to 3 or something along those lines. Thank you.
Share your public information.
I sent it to them today.
Okay. You already did?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. At this time, we're happy to have Ms. Sarah Stroud with East Point here tonight, and some of her staff, and Ms. Stroud, come up at this time if you would. Thank y'all so much for coming.
Thank you.
And I personally briefly before she gets started, I know Mr. Peterson has talked to her a lot, and Mr. Cogdell and some others, and I appreciate the time and the interest that you are placing in Bladen County. And it was a tough, long year last year, as you well know, with a lot of questions put at us, and I'll be the first one to tell you I didn't know a lot of it. Of course, I was new, and but you shed a lot of light, and we look forward to the coming year and things that we want to help us with. So thank you so much.
It's our pleasure to be here tonight. Bladen County has a special place in our heart because you all work with us, we partner together, and this is maybe the 4th time I've had the opportunity to be here. So that means a lot to us as well, because I definitely think it has to be a collaboration to serve the people that need us. I have with me tonight Victoria Jackson, and Victoria is not new to East Point, but she's new in her role. She has just recently moved from the Chief of Clinical Operations to the Chief of External Operations, where she manages our provider network and, of course, the services that the providers provide. We're still recruiting for our Chief of Clinical Operations. We just made that announcement today. So she's been filling dual roles for a little while. So she's going to be excited to just fill one role here in a few days. So the presentation I'm going to do tonight, of course, as always, I invite questions and discussion. It's similar to what I've shared with you before, but with updated numbers for fiscal year 18 that we just completed, and some additional information that I don't think we've ever shared with you before. So feel free to ask questions, stop me as we go. I much prefer it be an informal discussion than a formal presentation. So you can see the things that we'd kind of like to review tonight, a brief operational overview, talk about services, our provider network, some of the things we're doing in Bladen County specifically, and then I want to talk just a little bit about what's coming in the future for the local management entities, managed care organizations in the next 5 to 6 years. So it sounds like a lot, but I can move through it pretty quickly. So for fiscal year 18 that we've just completed, East Point has 278 employees. And out of those 278 employees, 12 of those live in Bladen County. Our budget still hovers around $300 million a year. This year it's at $317 million, with the Medicaid being just over $276 million of that. We have a fund balance of $129 million, and we've talked about this before. I'll just go through it again. Of that $129 million, only 23.7 is what we call unassigned, which means that basically all of the rest of it is designated for different purposes that we have to designate for. Our operational funds are between $20–25 million a month, so we really only hold about that much cash for 1 month's operation. And I know many of you are businessmen, so you know having 1 month's cash on hand is important for the health of any business. And those numbers are as of June 30th. In this slide, I don't know if you can see it really well, but up at the very top in the little blue slice is Bladen County. And you can see out of our total population figures, Bladen makes up 4%. Just as some more numbers to throw at you, your Medicaid population, you probably notice it stands at just over 9,500. And out of our whole service area, our total Medicaid population for last year was 221,000. So equating your population to the amount of claims that are paid for Bladen County, in this fiscal year, we paid 4% of our claims, which match up with the population. That's not intentionally, but sometimes it just works out that way. It's important to know, let's look at the next slide, and you'll see the actual dollars that we paid. So in fiscal year 17, we paid almost $8.5 million in services for Bladen County. This year, when this slide was done, we were at 8.2 million at the end of June. But the way the claims payment works, providers submit services for services up through June 30th. And it may take them a month or two to finish their billing. So that was just the dollars that had been paid up through June 30th. We're continuing to pay claims, and so we're on track to actually pay more claims this year than last year, is what that slide boils down to. The little go back a second. The little box at the bottom, that is your Bladen County funding, where that is currently going. Right now, you contribute just over $72,000. I think it's $52,725, and that's divided between two providers, one that does ADVP, or Adult Developmental Vocational Programming, and also psychiatric support for the hospital. And those are dollars that you designate each year for those services. Here again, just a breakdown of your members from Bladen County. In fiscal year 18, at the point we did the slides, we had 1,158 people who had received services in Bladen County out of a total Medicaid population of 9,559. Again, we provide services that are medically necessary for anyone who Medicaid is an entitlement, so if someone presents for services, they get services. The indigent population, those are dollars that are paid with state funds, and 246 members receive that funding. Just as an aside, the General Assembly has continued to cut the state funding to the LME MCOs over the last 3 years. However, the mandate is that we do not cut services. So the services for the state funded population is largely coming out of our fund balance dollars or our Medicaid savings. The Access to Care Center, you'll probably remember we talked about that before. That is physically located in Lumberton, and that was one of the departments that Victoria has managed. But as you recall, that is staffed with clinicians 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So anyone can call that number and receive services, or an assessment and a referral to services at any time, day or night. These are numbers that we've shared with you before, but I've updated them for this past year. Again, we are held to a number of standards by the state, many of which I'm not sharing tonight, but just highlighting some of them. Where that call center that I just mentioned, we're required to answer those calls within 30 seconds, and we do that at a 99% compliance rate, where the state requirement is 95. Complaints that come in, and we, just like any business, we get our share. We're required to resolve those within 30 days, and the requirement by the state is 90%. We do 100% within 30 days. People who come out of the hospital and their requirement to be assigned to care coordination, that's 85% by the state, and we do that at 100%. The claims process within 30 days, the requirement by the state, 90%, we do 99%. That one I'm particularly proud of because it relates to the providers. A lot of the providers are small business people. Some are larger, but many are mom and pop type organizations who depend on their cash flow coming in regularly. So the fact that when they submit those claims, we're able to process those within 30 days at 99% is good for our community, it's good for our providers. These next few slides, I've not shared with you before because these are new, but in 2017, the, DHHS did a survey of it's called the Consumer Perception of Care Survey. For the East Point, population that was, surveyed, it was just over 600 people. I think it was 651, adults, youth, and families. And so I want to take just a minute and kind of do a brag, not only for East Point, but I think it is a really great reflection for our county, including Bladen. So the big takeaway is that East Point continues to outperform the other LME MCOs on nearly every measure as surveyed by this survey. And you probably can't see the detail, but that purple line at the very top is East Point, and you can see there are 6 other LME MCOs in the state in addition to East Point, and you can see we are at the top. The question on that one, you probably can't read. The question is, do you know how to make a complaint with your LME MCO? So if somebody has a problem, the answer by and large is yes, they do. The next one, same thing, where the purple line and the question there was, were you given a choice of providers? Again, that is one of the requirements from a LME MCO, is that when someone calls and needs services, we don't just say, oh, you have to get an XYZ provider. We have at least 2 choices, many times more. The next one, where the purple line again, the question was your first service in a time frame that met your needs? And then the last one I'm going to share, again, the purple line. Has your LME MCO provided as much information as you need? And of course, the answers for us are by and large, yes. So just wanted to share that with you, give you some perspective. Sometimes we hear how we stack up with other LME MCOs, and I wanted to give you some information in case you had those conversations.
Excuse me, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
You had and I don't want to mess up your.
No, that's fine.
When you talk about the hospital readmission coordination, is that done inpatient or after readmission?
The answer's back, and I'm gonna let Victoria knows this one like the back of her hand, so I'm gonna ask her to speak to that.
We have care coordination teams that actually, as soon as the patient goes in the hospital, we ask the hospital to notify us so we can begin working on discharge planning. So as soon as they hit the hospital, we're working on discharge planning. And then after they discharge, then we want to make sure that they're connected to a service provider, and our care coordinators stay involved until they're fully transitioned to a service provider.
So even if they readmit, you stay on top at the same time and coming out?
Yes, ma'am.
So, shifting just a little bit to talk about the provider network. Mr. Brett, Chairman Brett mentioned, the work we've been doing in Bladen County, and along with Mr. Peterson, this is something we've really been paying attention to get a handle on what services we have in Bladen, where there may be gaps or needs, and work to address those. At the current time, located, and this is Mr. Peterson's terminology, bricks and mortar. We've talked a lot about bricks and mortar in the last month or two. We have 12 agencies at 14 different sites. So 14 sites represented by 12 agencies. There is one licensed independent practitioner, and of course, your hospital, Bladen. One of those providers does accept walk-in appointments, which means that someone does not have to have an appointment to walk in and see someone. I don't want us to lose sight of the last bullet though, and that is that our network consists of 340 providers. So those providers are ready and willing to serve if we have special needs or providers that, let's say someone has a very particular need that needs to be met. We have additional providers that we can match up across our network. And one of the things I'm going to share with you before we leave, we've done a handout, and this is kind of a pilot. We've not done this for any of our other counties, but we're really excited about it because we think it can be used for, communication and education throughout the county, and we've developed a plan for doing that. But on the front, it has our, contact information, what we do, how many providers there are, some information about how someone can log in and do a brief assessment online to see what kind of assistance they might need. And then on the back are all the providers with all the addresses. So we'll have these available for, you know, DSS and the health department and other places that we, you know, churches, community organizations, a lot of opportunity. So I'll be anxious to see what kind of feedback we get, and if this does indeed help meet a need that we think it needs. And if so, then we'll roll these out in our other counties, but we wanted to start with Bladen County. And I wanted to thank Victoria too. She's been boots on the ground down in here, Bladen County, literally, physically going to all of these bricks and mortar places to make sure that the people who are saying they're providing XYZ service, that is indeed what is happening in those locations. So I feel very confident tonight telling you that, at least at this point in time, this information is accurate. Some of the services that are provided, we have just added this ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis Therapy, in Bladen County. We had it as a service, but we brought it into Bladen County. Assertive community treatment team, community support team, intensive in-home care support, mobile crisis, and MST, or multi-systemic therapy. All of those are community settings. So people actually go out into the community, whether it's in the home or wherever the client is, to provide these services. That's in addition to the bricks and mortar services. Okay. I mentioned this earlier about anybody who presents for service receives the service. Currently, there is no wait list for the behavioral health services in Bladen County. There is a wait list of 23 people on the innovations, which is the developmentally disabled. And that is common. I mean, there is always a wait list across the state for those services, that waiver service. Okay. Then just to talk a little bit about some of the things we're doing in Bladen County. We've recently done across all of our providers a rate increase. And you think, why would you do that? Well, again, it supports those providers who are sometimes making it from month to month. They hadn't had an increase from the state in a long time. We did a $2 million rate increase, and that affected 8 of the providers in Bladen County. We've put $70,000, almost $70,000 in Bladen County's opioid coalition, and over 2 years, another $70,000 for opioid addiction treatment. We've done 55 Narcan kits to help prevent overdoses, and have trained 35 people in Bladen County on our crisis intervention training since 2016. Cheryl Harris is with us tonight, and I'm sure you all know Cheryl from East Point. She's here every month, and have to give her a lot of credit for this. In 2018 fiscal year, presentations at 26 events that reached more than 1,000 people. Opioid 101, other education for guidance counselors around opioids and stress management, and also participated in 37 other community events. So we definitely have a strong, solid presence here in Bladen County. Lastly, I want to just do a really high-level educational piece about what's getting ready to happen with behavioral health in the future. This summer, there were 2 bills passed in the General Assembly, 403 and 156, and they laid down the guidelines for this transformation. What will happen? Let's go to the next slide. I think what I need is on that one. Yep. So what those bills do is they establish the integration of care of physical health and behavioral health. And the way the state has proposed to do this, and they have submitted a waiver application to CMS, there will be 4 what they call standard plans across the state. And those 4 standard plans will manage physical health and the mild to moderate behavioral health. They have just issued the RFP for that in the last week or two. Those are, those will be commercial plans that will come in. I don't know who will be awarded those, but some of the ones that we know are applying are folks like Healthy Blues, that's Blue Cross, Aetna, WellCare, the list goes on, but the big commercial plans. The LME MCOs, as we are today, will continue to operate just as we are until 1 year after the commercial plans go into business. But immediately, when those commercial plans begin, they will take the mild to moderate behavioral health population. And East Point and the other LME MCOs will retain the more severe populations to provide care for them. After a year of operation, then what the LME MCOs do now will switch to what they are calling tailored plans. So that the 2 plans are standard and tailored. And we will operate as a tailored plan. We will have to submit an application to continue. And at some point, I'll come to you, maybe even beginning tonight, asking for your support as we begin that application process. Right now, there are 7 of the LME MCOs in the law. The secretary can select 5 to 7. So it's important that East Point be one of the remaining tailored plans. And there are also up to 10 regional PLEs who will also do the mild to moderate and the physical. So when we become a tailored plan, what will be different about it is, in addition to serving the most severely impaired on the behavioral health side, we will also be responsible for managing their physical health as well. And that will be a new piece of business. The targeted projection when all that will come to pass, for us, is the target date is 2021. And then the law provides for commercial plans to exist for, I believe it's 4 more years, and then it will be, not an application process, it'll be a bid process, and anyone can apply at that point.
On that, when you send the IDD and the TBI, if they do it to the contractor's plan, that means the Evans and the Blue Cross will go into the schools and everywhere, they'll also be the ones that handle those type of programs, and will you guys step all the way out of that, or how would that be?
And not for IDD, no sir, or TBI,
Y'all will still stay into that,
yes.
and be like into the schools, and
Because that's considered the more severe.
if you would be going to the other piece of it, with a more moderate type aid.
No, that's what the standard plans will do. They'll do the mild to moderate. We'll retain the more severe, like TBI and the developmentally disabled. And we're looking forward to working with you, and you'll be the expert on this in no time.
Yeah, I've been listening, I know you didn't catch those,
So,
Ms. Scott, I personally want to thank you. Mr. Peterson submitted a bunch of questions to you for answers, and it was very beneficial, I'm sure for myself, but the other commissioners that took time to read it, it helped me a tremendous amount. And I appreciate you responding, and that cleared the air on a lot of stuff that we had questions.
and again, I'll have to credit my team with helping with that, but we really tried to do a thorough job in responding, because we know you need that kind of
We
information.
really do. And
So-
we're cognitive of with making the hay.
I don't think we'll have any problem. Thank you so much for your time.
I have one question. How do you capture the data for the clients that go out of the county? Do you have East Point House sessions out of the county, like Brunswick? Do you have some point?
Like, in terms of tracking the members if they go out.
Oh, you get Blade, so you get that data as well?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
So the members, if their Medicaid is Bladen County, then that is associated with the member. So no matter where they get the service, then it comes back in and is tallied under Bladen.
And how about those who seek care who are non-Medicaid? Do you ever see any data from that as well?
Absolutely.
Because I know on my end of the county, a lot of them go to Brunswick, they don't come this way, because they work on that end of the county.
So if it's our funding source, which is Medicaid, and we have state funds for the indigent, both of those are tracked. But if someone has private insurance and they choose to go somewhere else and it doesn't come through us at all, of course we wouldn't want them.
Well, a lot of them that I know, they do work, but they still meet the poverty level.
Mhm.
So,
But yeah,
so
so
they
we're trying.
so you should track them. Thank you.
Good question. Anybody else? Thank you again so much for inviting us tonight, and I'm gonna, leave each one of you one of these, sheets so you can take a look at it. And, hope that we get good feedback, that if it needs tweaking, let us know that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Renee Davis.
I make it my Good evening.
D2.
This evening, we have a bid that was placed on August the sixth for $6,970 for 1 acre parcel of land on Columbus County Road. The investment to the county was $6,970. That's considered to approve or reject the bid.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We got a motion by Mr. Peterson to approve, got a second by Dr. Montgomery. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
And then the, next item on the agenda will be Carol. Is it considered to approve the unpaid tax report?
Item D, consider approving the.
So moved.
I'll second. Motion by Mr. Peterson, got a second by Mr. Cogdell. Any questions?
Why are we approving, I mean, explain this a little bit.
It's in the statute that you have to do this every year to the tax, you're given our charge to collect those unpaid taxes.
Okay.
Yeah, and you'll have the 2018s are in front of you, and then you have the delinquent ones also.
So, the one dated, starting in 2008, is that what we're talking about? This one?
Yeah, that's your delinquent taxes.
So this, the total on the far right is how much taxes we did not collect that year?
Yes, that was as of August 15th for 2008 through your 2017.
So, what, the statute runs out this year? 10 years, is it 10 years?
Yeah, your 2007s will come off. As of after tonight, we will take 2007s off.
So, my question is, the money that's owed to us, are we foreclosing or what we doing?
This would include your personal, and majority of it is your personal property. And then you got your, your real estate, it should not be that much, but the majority of it is vehicles, old vehicle bills or old mobile homes, And the next thing I was gonna say is that we are in the process of changing our tax collection program.
So, you know, my thing is, I don't have this Commissioner's deal, but I'll speak. You know, if one person has to pay property tax or personal taxes, everybody ought to pay it. And it shouldn't be written off as a loss to the county.
Yeah.
So I think we need to have a workshop, or we need to be proactive in collecting this money.
Okay.
Because it's just not fair to the ones that pay.
Yeah. And that was enough, after this, I was gonna tell you that on July the 27th, the Department of Revenue came to our, office and done a site visit. And they had some guidance, some techniques, some updated stuff that we're gonna share with you in September. And it's gonna change a few things about what we're doing.
So if I'm reading this right, there's, since 2008, there's $3.6 million on the books. Is that correct? Is it eight? Under the
On
total,
2008, your taxes,
no, I'm talking about from 2008 to 2017.
you
Is that,
got 2.5.
mine says 3.621.
It's the highlighted amount. That would be your subtotal,
You said the numbers to the far right was taxes
I'm
being
sorry,
collected.
it should be the list, I'm sorry.
The left.
Just the taxes,
Oh.
not late lists, not assessments,
Well, that's
Your
$2.5
2.5.
million we ain't collected.
That's correct.
And every time we do a budget, we scramble to give employees pay raises and stuff like that. That $2.5 million would shore up this county. And with some of the things that we're facing in this county, we need this money.
Can I ask a question on that? We talked about this on the prior meeting on one time about the same thing. Isn't that in reference to like if someone had an old car at the house and they just got abandoned and they didn't put tags on it, just left it sitting there with personal property?
Yeah.
Or a
This
mobile
could be-
home that had deteriorated.
And that is the majority of what's
What
on
we
the
talking
book.
about?
And as we speak, we have hired a, temp person that is doing some background research, looking on GIS for these old mobile homes, campers, anything like that that's on the books that are they still there, are they deceased? We're just having 6 people, it's just kinda hard to do that research, so we do have a temp person trying to do some research on that.
The reason I brought that question up is I had some property that is adjoining some of my property that had completely been not even assessed by the assessor because it had just been sitting there for such a period of time, mobile homes and stuff. And they were still showing up on tax value, so they just writes it off because at a point in time, it just dropped off the tax report. No one reported, they didn't do assessment.
So with that back in, like 2015, you would think that the revow, that would have showed up.
They didn't pick it up because it was this old house sitting up in the woods somewhere, but it was taxed on this spot. From the prior time, it was sitting there before it went over to the status where you start writing off payment out.
Okay, and that was one of the, some of the guidance that Department of Revenue was the first thing, was to see how we can get some of that old, is it still there or is it not? You know,
If they send those vehicles to a scrap now, so those are just gone forever, so how do they get it off, how do you get it off the books? What are they supposed to do to get it off the books?
if they have a vehicle on their property,
Right.
and they come and tell us, that's what they get their listing form. If they get a listing form and it's listed there, is that what you're asking me?
No, I'm saying if you have this amount of money, and I see a lot of cars
Mhm.
that are in the woods, they're eaten up by the grass, and then some of them are just sent to scrap metal. How are they supposed to, what are they supposed to do? If they don't put a tag on them, they're dead, as far as they're concerned.
Okay, so what you're supposed to do is to list your junk vehicles, even if they're sitting in your yard. If you don't have a tag, that is personal property. You pay taxes on that, even if it's a $500 value. It's
What about
junk.
a zero value?
Okay, but if they remove it, that's just like an old mobile home. it may be junk, storage. The storage value would probably just 1,000, that's our lowest value. But until they remove that, it's still taxable.
What she's telling you there, Dr.
They
Montgomery,
supposed to do that.
you need to.
Well, not
that-
they.
No, that individual though, when they're filling that form out,
And we send
she's
it.
seeing it from prior.
Right.
But when you're filling your current one out, you need to let it be known that you don't have that vehicle.
People don't turn those things back in,
And then you do have that, and that's that,
but they
you know,
don't.
percentage that we have, there's like only 5%, you know, that doesn't pay their taxes.
But what I'm saying is, the property that was dead, mobile homes were dead. The lady owned the property, it was someone else's personal property.
Personal
They don't
property,
put on it.
that's right.
You
And-
won't pay taxes on something they left there to charge. So how you get money from a person that way? That's what I'm trying to figure out, how you do that?
If they've already been, I mean, we have it on the books, and then that person, if it's listed, and you're saying it was, correct?
Then the guy, he just moved, he helped him with the rod, been a rod for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
He just left.
So, if we couldn't, first of all, we wanna find out if they have a different address. So we do have a, you know, a procedure to go to find addresses, new addresses, or social security numbers. Try to put them on debt set off, or if we find garnishments. But, that's, personal property is our majority, and it's, people move it illegally, move mobile homes all the time. They should pay the taxes, get a moving permit, and, you know, but that's not always the case.
But even though they scrap it, or they move it, they still owe the taxes,
That's correct.
and we should be collecting those taxes.
Do what now?
And you should be collecting those taxes.
That's right.
And if they scrap it, then it's the responsibility of whoever scraps it to let you know, or, and DMV, that it's scrapped.
That's what I'm saying.
It still goes back to the taxpayer.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So,
That's his penalty for not letting you know that you got to pay the tax.
Some of them did. Just
Yeah.
left it like that.
Well, Ms.
Yeah.
Davis,
We have a lot of deceased and heir, you know, property.
Mr. Chairman, that happened to my brother-in-law, you know, he had a single wife, and he had gotten rid of the thing, and it was on the books probably about 5 years after he'd gotten rid of it.
That happens a lot. And, you know, we send the listing form out, but I don't know if they just, and it's just a listing form to let us know, but until they let us know, or, you know, in personal property, it's, like I said, it's just hard to locate sometimes.
Now, on your list tonight, you think most of those are abandoned, personal property?
But what we're seeing when we hired this temp, there is a lot that is not out there.
but my point is, it don't make no difference if it's out there or not. They owe taxes.
Yeah, and I know, and we just gotta find, you know, where they're at, or are they deceased?
That's the
That,
problem,
you
what
know.
happens is I'm finding a lot of these old bills are, they're dead. The person's dead and we don't know who to contact. I have a place I can go online and we get
Well,
their
we don't need to wait till they die before we start collecting the taxes.
And that's, again, we're trying to be proactive so that this won't happen, you know, we're gonna work on that. And that's what Department of Revenue is helping us with.
But my point as county commissioner is, you need to make every effort to collect it. It shouldn't be written off as bad debt, unless there is debt or people passed away or something like that, and ain't no way to collect it. But this $2.5 million is a lot of money in Blaine County, and as the years go down, as we get into this down the road, it's gonna be worth even more money, be
And we're
more
going-
important to Blaine County, because we got a lot of issues facing Blaine County.
But
We're not out of the woods yet.
what kind of expense would it be to recover property taxes on a piece of property that's valued at $1,000? Why would we, I'm just saying, you have to look at the investment of how you gonna recover $1,000 worth of taxes, but you gonna pay
I've got a
$80.
solution to that.
How you
If
do
it's
it?
worth $1,000, you don't wait till your taxes eat it up before you foreclose on it.
Should be done in.
That's as simple, that's simple. You fix that, easy.
And that was one of the Department of Revenue's thing, is to go, you know, go after it right after It becomes delinquent, do it then.
Yeah, don't let the land eat the taxes and the county can't get rid of it.
Because the state does. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if I could make one important point. Of the $2.5 million figure that's been cited, you can see that after the second year, that figure begins to quickly drop. And as you know, we all have the same common interest here, so I want to make that point first. We want to collect the taxes in a timely fashion, and every taxpayer needs to pay their taxes. With that being said, you all know that the tax office has worked hard to increase the collection rate, and in recent years, as the collection rate has increased, one of the adverse effects of that is, in terms of revenue to the county, is that we are seeing a significant decrease in the amount of interest and penalties that the county sees. You know, each year we budget as a revenue source, penalties and interest. And just several years ago, Renee, correct me if I'm wrong, it was around $700,000. Wasn't it up to close to
Yeah.
$700,000? This past year, if I'm not mistaken, it was in the three. It was approximately half of that. So I'm not saying that that's good, bad, or indifferent, but that is revenue. As long as cash flow is good and we're paying our bills, we still want people paying in a timely fashion. But on the flip side of it, yeah, I don't want you thinking that we're losing this $2.5 million, because that's not the case, first
She's
of all.
already discovered a lot of it's already gone in.
But as we continue to see that tax rate increase, we're also having a significant decrease in an important revenue, or what has been an important source of revenue to the county over the years. And I'm just saying that for information.
I totally agree with that, but you don't do business on what interest you're gonna get. You do fair business on what's owed to you.
I understand, but we've become
And I'm
dependent
not being
on that
critical of
also.
the tax office. I'm just expressing my concerns. I'm not being critical of anything y'all doing or you have done or going to do. I'm just saying, I think it's only fair that everybody pays their taxes. And we can't wait till the taxes eat the land up or eat the personal property up before we go after it. And we do need to clean the books up. It'll help you a whole lot, so I'm glad you're doing that.
Yeah, but we'll be back in September to kind of share all the different things that they gave us and what we're planning to do.
I'm gonna motion approved. Oh, you done got that, I'm sorry.
All in favor, say aye.
Just
I'm sorry.
No? Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Lisa Cole, fine.